Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube classroom. This is Dr. Sivasakthivel, Faculty, Department of Environmental Science, Bangalore University. This is my continuation of previous class on environmental pollution. We have discussed the environmental pollution and the different types: air pollution and water pollution and soil pollution, and source of certain pollutant and their impacts on human health. Apart from air and water and soil, and today we are going to have a class on nuclear hazardous and human health risk. A nuclear pollutant in environment considered as the most hazardous when compared to the chemical or biological pollutant, because the chemical pollutant and biological pollutant we can able to manage by our own technology, or nature itself will manage the reduce the pollutant content by bioremediation or photoremediation process, whereas a nuclear substance in the air and pollutant in the water and soil, where nature itself cannot able to cure the pollutant by the natural process, because this nuclear process will emit the radiation which is dangerous to the human health and also living organisms and non-living matter on the surface. This radiation emission from the nuclear waste, which will release the energy in the form of electromagnetic waves. These electromagnetic waves which will interact with the atom of living organisms, which will interact the atom in the non-living organisms by direct damaging the chemical bond or altering the chemical constitution, which leads to the change of character and properties. This is a very dangerous issues so far been identified and considered as the most hazardous pollutant in the environment compared to the chemical pollutant as well as the biological pollutant. The nuclear radiation emissions, where it is produced. What is the reason certain elements are considered as a radioactive pollutant? Naturally, the elements are existing in the form of two. One is stable form and unstable form. The stable form of element in the earth, where in the nucleus consists of equal number of protons and neutron, and this type of element never release the radiations and save for the environment. But certain element within the nucleus, the proton number and neutron number are unequal. By either proton will be a more when compared to the neutron number, or neutron number will be a more when compared to the proton number in the nucleus. When these situations an unequal number between the proton and the neutron, this nucleus will try to convert into the stable form within the proton and neutron among each other, will emit the radiation by eliminating the one electron from the outer. Even eliminating the one electron resulting the radiation emissions, but the same nucleus not satisfied by balancing the proton and neutron, and again will be in the form of unstable status, will goes to the further radioactive atomic nucleus. Again the radiations will be emitted. So these cycles will be continue until this nucleus are becoming a stable form. But conversion by the natural process from unstable to the stable form, it takes a long period. Period means not a second, not a minute, day, 100 years or 200 years, even more than. So in such character of radioactive elements, are most dangerous for the environment. For example, uranium is naturally occurring. This is a radioactive element, and radium, americium, and cesium and plutoniums. But one uranium which will become a radioactive, this uranium will produce the radium, radon, americium, and cesiums. These are all the byproduct from the uranium during the radiation decay. So you need to understand only the unstable element, which consists of unequal number of proton and neutron, will undergoes the radioactive phenomenon. This radioactive phenomenon releasing the radiations will have the impact on human health. That is the class today we are going to clarify well. So radiations are resulted from the unstable radioactive element. This radiation carries the excess amount of energy in the form of electromagnetic, namely alpha, beta, and gamma radiations. These alpha, beta, gamma radiations will carry the energy. It can able to pass through this certain matter. For example, alpha radiations will pass through the paper, and also it can be stopped by the skin. But beta radiation will pass through the paper also, and also can be passed through the skin. But a gamma radiation which will pass through the paper, metallic shield, concrete wall, and any matter except lead wall. So only lead has the capable of penetrating the gamma radiation from the source. So because of this character by the lead, now we are able to save the world from the radiation of gamma or any point of source. Otherwise, if a lead is not found and not properly utilized in the scientific manner, this one gamma radiation is more than enough to kill the any living organisms on the earth. This is the most dangerous radiations and considered as a hazardous, and need to understand the seriousness of the gamma radiations. So this figure probably you will understand. So first column, that is the name of the radiation, and here you can able to clearly understand. So there are three types of radiation. One is alpha decay and beta decay and gamma emission. So alpha decay are named as because the alpha decay produce the alpha particles. Alpha particles are the stable isotopes. How the stable isotopes are produced? Remember, all radioactive elements are unstable element. These unstable elements will try to become a stable. Between the time from unstable to stable element, you will release the radiation by releasing the 1 electron. So the time radiation is depends on the amount of radioactive elements is present and the nature of the character. So here alpha radiations, uranium is a parent, is a raw radioactive element. If the uranium-238 undergoes the radiation, while emitting the radiation in the form of alpha particles, it will produce the one daughter radioactive element, because 1 electrons are released from the outer circle, this mass number will decrease. That is the less 1 or 2 mass number from the uranium. This considered as a daughter nuclides. These daughter nuclides further undergoes the second cycle of radiation by releasing the electrons, that is called as a beta radiations. While the beta radiation emission, additionally we will have a one more daughter. Again the daughter nuclides are produced from the beta radiations, undergoes the further radiative decay, produce the gamma radiations, additionally another one daughter. So each and every one step of decay, the parental uranium will produce the daughter plus a radiation. The daughter radioactive elements further undergoes the one more second cycle of radiation and resulting in the another one type of radiation plus the third generation of the daughter. The third generation of daughter nucleotides again undergoes into the radiation and emitting the another one type of radiation and producing the fourth generation of daughter. This is the cyclic and branched way it will emitting the radiation, the different forms alpha, beta and gamma, which will impact on the living organisms and non-living organisms. And living organisms, how the different radiations alpha and beta and gamma radiations are changing the chemical character of and damaging the internal organ on living organisms, we are going to discuss today in detail. Before that, when compared to the alpha decay and beta decay and gamma decay are considered as a most powerful radiation which carries the enormous amount of energy, can able to vibrate the any atom on the surface and alter the chemical character and the properties also, because the high energy radiation, namely gamma, already I told you, which will cross the paper of any wall and cross your body muscles and also cross the metal, iron metal wall, even concrete, that much impact. Remember, all three decay, the radiation are invisible. So you can't able to identify where the radiations are passing and there is no chances of escaping from the radiations. The invisible character of alpha and beta and gamma radiations, this is the killing energy really if you are not shielded by lead. So how the chain reactions, the uranium 238 will undergoes the different decay process by conversion from unstable to next form and the next form to another generation and generation to third generation of decay. Each and every changing of the decay process by releasing the energy in the form of radiations, and finally it will try to attain in the stable form. But the time duration for the conversion of unstable to stable will take long year. For example, uranium 238, the half-life is 4.46 billion years. Half-life mean the uranium had taken the time to degrade or taken the half of the decay. For example, 1 gram of uranium 238 or undergoes the radiation mean to reduce into the 0.5 gram, the uranium will take minimum 4.46 billion years. The half of the radiations are cut off by the certain duration, that is half-life. So it's serious pollutant in the environment. Look here, 4.46 billion years, the uranium pollutant in the environment will keep on releasing the radiation and killing the living organisms on the surface, even small plants and animal, etc. etc. And meanwhile it will produce the another one daughter nucleides in the form of another form of the radioactive elements, that is thorium. From thorium, protonium daughter will produce. From protonium, uranium 234 will be produced. So these chain reactions keep on continue and finally lead will form. So if any environment, if you detect the uranium, you just imagine that the area or environment is going to be affected by the radiation up to 4 billion years. If you found radium or radon radioactive element in the earth's surface or water, mean These places are already under the radiation pollutant, either from the thorium or uranium directly or indirectly. But these radon half-life is 3 days. Only 3 days it has the impact on the living and non-living organisms. But the time taken for the half-life from 4.5 and 75,000 years and 1600 years, imagine the life never be existed by accepting that much of radiation. Within the fraction of time, this radiation will destroy the any living organisms, even plant, human, animal, even small microorganisms also. What are the different type of radiations? Radiations are two types. One is ionization radiation and non-ionization radiation. Ionization radiations are the particle carries the excess amount of energy in the form of electromagnetic wave. These electromagnetic wave can pass through the air, water, even soil also. But the high energy electromagnetic waves contact with the water, that electromagnetic waves will be amplified in the twofold or threefold. Mean in air only one fold of radiation being absorbed. Mean if the same radioactive substance are produced or contaminated in the water, mean the amount of radiation will be doubled. That is the interaction between the electromagnetic waves and the water. The water will has the character of amplifying the radiation into the higher amount. So seriously, these radioactive elements in the water considered as a most dangerous pollutant. It will destroy the any organisms for the longer period with a heavy dose when compared to the radioactive pollutant in air and soils. And non-ionizing radiations carries the very low energy of electromagnetic, and it has the less impact on, but the non-ionization radiations are used for the many domestic purpose and also scientific development. Microwave oven, global positioning system, GPS, where you are using in your mobile to locate your relatives, to locate your position in anywhere in the earth. And cellular phone transmitting the voice call and video mode through the non-ionization radiation, and telecasting the television program through the non-ionization and FM. And all these, the scientific tools are working with the non-ionization radiation. But it has the very less impact. But if you expose the non-ionization radiation also, the longer time, using the cellular phone more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes and very close to your eyes or the head, that is also has the direct impact on our brain. The recent study is revealed that the smartphone use by the children more than 2 hours in a day, where they are developing impairment, the brain learning and vision problem and speaking issues and learning incapabilities, and also hyperactivity without any reasons. The psychological imbalance also happening while the children are using the smartphone more than 2 hours in a day. So non-ionization radiation may be a less pollutant in the environment, but exposure a long time with a non-ionizing radiation leads to the major impact on the children as well as the adult. One incident, all these introductions I would like to recall, that is in Russia during 1986. In Russia, you know very well, they are very good in running the atomic power stations. Even US also. In Ukraine city, in the Chernobyl, Chernobyl is a beautiful city covered by the green field, and the city they have the three reactor where they will produce the electricity. For producing the electricity, they were using the radioactive substance. So using the radioactive substance, and energy are produced, that is called as a atomic power station. So atomic power station working the principle of the heat are released while the radioactive elements undergoes the decay process, radiation process. So while the radiation is started from the reactor, it will produce the excess amount of the heat. That heat being absorbed by the surrounding water, and because of temperature rise in the water convert into the steam. The steam is rotating the turbine engine, and the turbine is connected with a generator and electricity being produced. This is a principle of atomic power station. Even the thermal power station also the same principle. Instead of here a radioactive element, in thermal power station they will use the coal. But coal, tons of coal being burned and release a lot of air pollution and also the sediment, and electricity is producing. That's why thermal power station is not a eco-friendly technology for generating the power, whereas using the radioactive element, a minimum quantity of the substance are utilized which will produce the maximum amount of heat, more than that of coal which will produced during the thermal process, and also very less pollutant be released from the atomic power station. This is the one advantage for the atomic power stations. So by considering the reason, the Russians are most adapted the atomic power station during 80s. But one the incidents which will give the pain for the entire world, in Ukraine, the beautiful city Chernobyl are surrounded by the green field. The Russians are constructed the 3 reactor to satisfy the need of electricity for the entire Russia. In that 3 reactor, one reactor during 1986 and April month, they were started rechecking the safety aspect of the reactor, because in the atomic reactor safety is very important, because once if you initiate the radiation it will keep on continuous. If you not stop the radiation, and you can't stop by any times, it will continues and continues. It may happen the radiation leak also leads to the environmental contaminations. During the trial of the checking, in the mid time, either the man-made error or accident, the radioactor, the reactor is burst. While burst, massive heat is released, and the worker who was working very close to the reactor is burnt on the spot itself. The reactor is almost completely damaged the entire roof of the concrete and became a weapon. See the energy, the blast, that much energy is there in the radioactive. And while blast, there are 1,000 tons of radioactive elements being released into the atmosphere up to 100 feet. Even the dust of the radioactive elements transported into the certain distance by the wind, and certain amount of radioactive substance are deposited on the surface, and again it was contaminating in the animal and water and trees. 3 days Russians was trying to control the fire accident. Of course they controlled, but most of the people, the fire workers, that realized this is a radiation pollution. They thought this is a simple fire accident. They used the water and flushed the water to off the flame which is rising from the spot. Already I told you, radiation in the water will double the radiation effect. After the complete control of the fire, the firemen found the skin was burning and found that the eyes problem and hair fall. Then they think that there is something else happening, not only from the fire, that is the radiations. And after third days, Russians are announced this is the incident has happened in our place. Please help us. And then all other countries started how to control the radiations. So during the incidents, immediately 4,000 people were dead and 1 lakh people were dead after the exposure of radiation. They recorded after 1990s. Immediately 2 lakh people were evacuated from Chernobyl city to safeguard them. Now the Chernobyl city became a ghost city. No people are there. They left their property, they left their vehicle as it is. In the midnight of second day, they left everything. They were evacuated into the safe place. And till now, 2020 also, in the entire city, no one is there. As it is what they left, they are staying there only. So different source of radioactive materials, the exposures either by inhalation, by inhaling the air which contain the dust of radioactive substance, and deposition of the radioactive substance in the air. By drinking water also we have the problem with the radiations, and the water aquatic animal also affected by the radiations, and through the food web the radiation contamination will interfere and comes into the human consumption. We are accumulating the problem. So radiation, dust particle accumulation in the clouds will spread the radiation everywhere, anywhere in the part of the world, and the water will kill the aquatic organisms and also change their genetic character. How it will affect the genetic characters? Listen, the biological effects of radiations, because this radiation, particularly the gamma radiation, will directly contact with your DNA. It will damage the DNA structure by breaking the hydrogen bond in the DNA. DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid, very important genetic material present in your nucleus of your cell. If the DNA is get damaged of the nucleus, then the cell of your any organ will not be a normal functions. Then will consider as a abnormal cell, leads to the cancer or tumor. So even the minimum amount of radiation exposure on your skin is more than enough to damage your DNA, leads to the cancer, and finally tumor will be developed. Or else the cell also may die instantly when the radiation exposures are more, and death may occur. But it depends on the rate of absorption, how much amount of radiations are absorbed by your body, and which part of your body is absorbed the radiations. If the radiations are absorbed in your leg, some time or some hour we can able to tolerate, or we can able to cure any medicinal activities. But the same radiations are exposed on your eyes, immediately there is a huge problem. Cataracts will take place. And the same radiation will reduce the white blood cell and red blood cell. Less number of white blood cell and red blood cell leads to the very low immune system in our body. After that, you will have an infection with any pathological agent, either fungal or bacteria or protozoa. Leads to the multiple infection and death will occur. And also it will damage your muscle cells and very least sensitivity towards the nervous systems. The radiation exposures, acute radiation exposure with a high dose in short terms, and a chronic mean low dose of radiations for the longer time. Radiation in high dose in short terms is more than enough to damage your internal organ. It will burn your skin on the surface, and you will lose your hairs within fraction time, and after 1 day or 2 days the entire blood count will reduce, leads to the radiation sickness. Radiation sickness that includes tiredness, increasing the blood pressure, the heart rate will increase, you feel shivering of your leg and feeling sleep. This is the instant symptoms noticed immediate acute radiation exposure. Very less amount of radiations. If a body are exposed for the longer time, they develop the cancer. So cancer somehow we can able to treat it. The person will develop the cancer, can survive another 10 years or 15 years, depends on their health system. And anemia also will produced if you are exposed with a low amount of radiation itself. Anemia leads to the weakness of your biological systems. We can able to manage by administrating anemic maintenance tablets or taking the iron or vitamins, etc. But acute radiations from the radiation source in high amount will cause the immediate death also. It leads to the internal bleeding of your organ, either in the pancreatic or in the intestinal, and the bone marrow will damage, leads to the low amount of WBC or BC will synthesized, and lung inflammation and also possible cancer risk, because this radiation will penetrate from your upper side to lower, any direction. If you expose it, will penetrate through your internal organ and damage completely. Look here, gastrointestinal symptoms will develop within 3 days or maximum 5 days. If the persons are sensitive, within 3 days they will have the intestinal bleeding and death may occur. The person has little strength and sufficient energy is there, and healthy persons maximum 5 days they will survive. After that, and all the humans will die by developing the internal bleeding, by sunburn and loss of hair. This is the acute radiation effect from the source of radioactive elements. The different dose, what are the different causes? 200 rad. Here I using the unit rad. There are many units are used for the radioactive radiations. Rad, curie, and Rontgen. Rontgen, that is the amount of radiation per kg. So 200 rad of radiation is enough to make a mild erythema, which will causes the redness on your skin. And 300 rad will causes the temporary hair loss in your body and head. And 600 rad causes the severe erythems. 700 rad causes the permanent hair loss, and 1000 rad causes the tissue necrosis. And the chronic effects from the radiations: carcinogenic, embryological issues, cataractogenic, lifespan shortening. So in the class we have discussed what is the radioactive element and types of radiation, ionization and non-ionization, and what is the alpha radiation and beta radiation and gamma radiation, and how the radiations is affecting the biological system or the human by damaging the DNA, leads to the cancer cells, and acute toxicity of the radiation which causes the skin burn, damage the internal organ, and reduce the blood count, and death may occur within 3 or 5 days. But less amount of radiation concentration for the longer time the person they develop the cancer and anemic disease and cataracts. They also will have the lifetime for another 10 years, but they will die after 10 years or 15 years. So student, this is a serious issue that radioactive pollution in the environment is not at all acceptable. Even 0.01 gram, not 0.01 gram, 0.001 gram of radiation substance should not be contaminated in the environment. Very trace amount of radioactive elements is more than enough to kill the surroundings for the many years. So this is the most hazardous pollutant in the environment. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next class.